Good morning to some and good afternoon to others. I am Tasha Taylor. I'm the Director of Philanthropy here at the Mississippi Center for Justice. So before we start, I wanted to remind you that this call is being recorded. First, thank you all so much for joining us today. I know you could choose to be anywhere else, but you've chosen to share your time here with us today. We are incredibly grateful for your generous support of MCJ's mission and the work that we do to serve our community. Your dedication makes a lasting impact, and we are truly appreciative for you taking the time to be here with us today, especially as we navigate these challenging times. While we wish we could meet you in person, we felt it was very important and critical to connect virtually to introduce you to our new president and CEO, Kimberly Jones Merchant, and to discuss the impact of President Trump's recent policies on the communities we serve. So as the saying goes, Kimberly has truly hit the ground running, and we are truly grateful for her leadership. So to guide today's discussion, Kimberly will begin by sharing MCJ's response to the new administration's policies. Then Harya Tarkin, MCJ's Director of Advocacy and Policy, will provide further insights into how our work is evolving in the light of these changes. Following their remarks, we will open the floor for questions and discussion. If you'd like to ask a question or share a concern, you can either type it in our chat or use the raise the hand feature, which you'll find by clicking the reactions button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Once you raise your hand, I will call on you for you to speak. Finally, Kimberly will close our discussion with final thoughts and a call to action. Again, thank you all so much for being here with us today, and we look forward to an engaging discussion. Kimberly?
Thank you, Tasha. I was scrolling through the names as people were entering, and it warmed my heart because I saw old friends, people I've worked with in the past, and someone asked me the other day, how are you keeping it together given everything that's happening? And I said, I stand on the ground with warriors. I have an army of racial justice warriors standing behind me. And as such, that has I just wanted to say that because I saw those folks listed there. Well, good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. I am Kimberly Jones Merchant, your president and CEO. It is an honor to lead this organization at such a critical time for justice and equity in our state and across the country. With the new administration in place, we are already seeing shifts in policy that will impact the communities that we serve. We feel it here at the Mississippi Center for Justice, and we hear it from those people who are calling us for help every day. Some of these changes threaten to undo hard-fought progress, and Mississippi Center for Justice remains committed to standing in that gap for those who are most affected. There are potential cuts to federal funding for essential programs that are jeopardizing healthcare, housing, and economic opportunities for low-income families. We are actively working to ensure that Mississippi communities don't bear the brunt of these cuts, and we feel them as well right here at the Mississippi Center for Justice. The administration's push to weaken or eliminate the Department of Education could devastate our public schools, particularly in those underfunded communities. We're also seeing a push for this idea of school choice right here in Mississippi, who are following the administration's lead. While having a choice is a good idea, this proposal is an attempt to siphon public school funds to private institutions. Attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts are not just political talking points, they're direct attempts to silence the fight for racial and economic justice, the very core of our mission here at the Center for Justice. And we will not back down in the face of these challenges. The recent stance on immigration has led to an increase in raids across Mississippi, the detentions of our community of immigrants, and a separation of families as a result. We have been receiving reports of a decrease in school attendance, children just disappearing from class. Immigrant communities are living in fear as they call us scared, not knowing if they can report to work or if they'll be picked up at any moment. What does that mean for their children if they are in fact separated? And this impacts their ability to then support their families. Business owners are uncertain about their rights and what to do in the event that ICE agents show up at their business, as well as schools districts that have called us asking, what do we do if they show up and ask for a student? And this brings me to the central purpose of this call. I want to introduce you to Haria Tarekin, the Advocacy Director for the Mississippi Center for Justice. She will share with you how we're working with our partners to protect immigrants' rights and provide legal support to those who are most targeted. Haria.
Thank you so much, Kim, and good morning to everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. So Mississippi has been facing the same terror and messaging as the rest of the nation. Community members are terrified. They want to protect their families and they want to continue living productive lives in the United States. But what is happening in Mississippi is also different and unique, as Mississippi does not have a network of immigration attorneys. In fact, with very few immigration attorneys in the state, communities don't know who to call. Since the new administration, we have received multiple reports of ICE raids leading to detainment of individuals, an influx of calls from terrified residents seeking guidance and protection, teachers and parents reaching out for advice on how to safeguard children in their care. MCJ's previous response was in 2019 when ICE workplace raids took place. A housing attorney who had immigration experience and a fellow stepped up and stepped in the gap. We were able to organize resources, take on clients, and represent individuals in bond hearings. It was an emergency and we stepped up. And from that 2019 response, we learned our lesson. MCJ started planning our response to this current administration in November. We knew that our immigrant communities were going to be hit the hardest, and so we reached out to our partners in the work. We reached out to community organizers and organizations working with immigrants every day and other legal nonprofits, and we started planning. By helping to mobilize the Mississippi Immigration Coalition, or Nuestro, this meant that we weren't caught flat-footed when the administration started issuing executive orders in January. And that brings me to our current response. As part of the Mississippi Immigration Coalition, MCJ has worked on developing and manning an intake process to swiftly connect individuals to both legal and humanitarian aid. Additionally, we are supporting the Immigrant Alliance for Justice and Equity, IAJE, in their efforts to educate the community on their rights, identify impacted individuals, and launch a dedicated 1844 IAJE Soy intake hotline to provide urgent assistance. We want to make sure people know that ICE agents need judicial warrants to enter their homes. We want to make sure people know that they have a right to remain silent and should exercise that right. And we want to make sure people know that while their instinct might be to run, they should not. Additionally, because we're all in new territory when it comes to schools, hospitals, and churches, we want to make sure that individuals like teachers and administrators know how to protect their students. Collaborating with the MacArthur Justice Center and the ACLU to expand legal resources, we are working to make sure that people can get powers of attorney, that people can figure out how to create temporary guardianships for their children in case they are deported, that individuals are able to get expungements for free if needed so that their crimes don't become deportable offenses. And we are offering to safekeep legal documents in case individuals are deported at a moment's notice. We are working on creating a network of immigration attorneys as well that can accompany people to bond hearings, immigration criminal defense attorneys who can represent individuals, and more. And finally, by providing legal observers through our Legal Observer Program, which is the only one in the state of Mississippi, we are able to ensure community actions, hearings, and spaces are safe and open to the public. By training MCJ and other volunteer attorneys to navigate and combat these emerging legal challenges, we are exercising our unique ability to adapt, transform, and step in the gap. We learned from our experiences in 2019. We pulled on the amazing internal expertise we have here, and we mobilized our community presence and reputation to ensure that we're able to protect our immigrant community members and our immigrant families. Thank you all, and I'll turn it over to Tasha to facilitate our question and answer.
Thank you so much, Kimberly and Haria. So with that, we have come to the point in this discussion where we would like to hear from you all. So if you have questions or concerns, you may type those in the chat, and I will ask Tara if you can help me identify those questions in the chat. But you can use your chat to, like I said, voice questions or concerns, or you can use the reaction button, which should be at the bottom of your Zoom screen, to raise your hand, and I will call on you to ask your question or voice your concern. Okay, I will read a question. And the question is, what resources are you making available to communities in Northeast Mississippi?
Thank you, Barbara. That's a great question. So the Mississippi Immigration Coalition has partners all over the state. And so we've been working to, we've created Know Your Rights flyers for restaurants, Know Your Rights flyers for individuals about what happens if ICE comes to their home, if ICE stops them on the street, or if ICE stops them in their car. We are also making sure that individuals have access to red cards, which are cards that are known in the immigrant community, where on one side, it is in English and tells the ICE agent, I am exercising my right to remain silent, and other rights. And then on the backside, in the language of the community, will say, hand this to the officer, you have the right to remain silent, call an attorney. And so there's a number of resources. Another thing that we're working on right now, both for Northeast Mississippi, for the Delta, and areas that don't have as many resources, is a lot of school districts don't know their rights, including their federal protections, or actually their federal duty to protect their students. And so we're working on language that they can use to send out to parents, but also educate their teachers and administrators on what to do if ICE shows up.
Thank you so much. The next question is, what are any immediate needs that people can sign up for now?
Oh, Courtney, thank you so much for that question. I will circulate, and I will find it while we're talking on this chat, sign up for anyone who is able to volunteer, whether that's time, whether that's language. And so right now, things that have started are canvassing all around to get these Know Your Rights materials out. And then once we start getting an influx of calls, we will reach out to our volunteers to see how they might be able to help.
I also wanted to just point out that we will be sharing these resources with everyone in an email after this recording, after this session, as well as if there's a portion of the community that we're missing, like Northeast Mississippi, and you know there's a need there, then we're asking you, our partners, to reach out to let us know so that we can be responsive.
Thank you. This is Haria. I think, can you share the groups that are in the Mississippi Immigration Coalition?
Sure. So SPLC, ACLU, IAHE, Mississippi Center for Justice, El Pueblo. There are a number of smaller individual community organizations, People's Advocacy Institute, Mississippi Poor People's Campaign are all ones that come to mind right now. But the IAHE started planning for this for a long time, and there are community organizers that have been doing this work born out of the 2019 RIDs, and so they have quite an extensive network across the state.
Thank you. And Haria, you again, can you briefly mention House Bill 1484, the Bounty Hunter Bill?
Yeah, so Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of violence towards our immigrant communities, one of which was a bill that was introduced. Mississippi is also currently going through its legislative session, and a legislator from DeSoto introduced a bounty hunter bill that would pay individuals $1,000 to report undocumented individuals to law enforcement. It would also require those undocumented individuals, or there was a provision that required those undocumented individuals to be held in prison for life and submit to DNA testing. Luckily, that House bill did not even make it out of committee, but you can understand the amount of fear that brought onto people, especially individuals that don't understand the full process of the legislative session, but also that saw reporting that this just existed. So part of our work during the legislative session was making sure that it didn't come out of committee, but also making sure that people understood that the bill was not alive, that the bounty hunter program does not exist in Mississippi, and that was not something that they should be worried about.
Thank you. And the documents that you mentioned, Haria, which partner or partners are making those available?
IAHE is making those available, and I can get back to you specifically, Barbara, on which partners are in Northeast Mississippi.
Okay. And so Jennifer wants to know, are there trainings planned for school administrators and clergy?
It's a good question. We haven't yet gotten to the point of trainings. We have been calling school administrators and school districts. There are some that want our help and some that do not want our help. And so right now we're in the process of gathering materials, but also making sure that they are all read and approved by immigration attorneys to make sure that we're providing schools with accurate information. Again, this is brand new because schools used to be sanctuary spaces. And so we want to make sure that we have all that right. And then we will push it out to schools, administrators, clergy, hospital administrators, and staff once we have those resources nailed down or finalized.
Okay. And so Sabrina says, thank you. And Ann Shackelford says, thank you. Look forward to getting the resources and sharing. I know that MCJ needs financial support, and I like to be useful directly as a volunteer. Helps with ongoing anger and frustration. Marlo has two questions, and the first is, which MCJ campaigns or programs could be impacted by cuts or freezes on federal funding?
All right, well, keeping everything transparent. So we do have federal funding across several of our campaigns, our heirs property campaign, our housing campaign, our health campaign, and our economic justice campaign. The one campaign that I would say is that we have heard clear communications about in terms of the potential loss of funding is our heirs property campaign. And we're still in conversations with the administrator of those grants and trying to determine where that leaves us. Some of this money is, yes, baked into our 2025 budget, but we are preparing, we are being proactive, and we also have a strong foundation that was built prior to my administration, thanks to Ms. Vangela Wade. And so we are prepared. It will not change what we do as an organization. We will not change course. We will not stop discussing our mission. It is racial and economic justice. We understand that makes us a target, and we are prepared for that.
And the second part of that question is, are there specific areas in which donations are needed, or is unrestricted giving the best way to support MCJ right now?
Right. So thank you for bringing that up. Unrestricted giving is always the best way because that allows us to be nimble and flexible when these changes do happen. We don't have immigration attorneys on staff, but we have unrestricted funds that we can access. Well, we can find immigration attorneys, or we can hire people to help or consult with us in doing that. So unrestricted funds are always the best. We will have a call to action at the conclusion of this call. Anyone who wants to contribute, we are more than willing to accept those donations. Tasha and I have been working on a campaign, just the lower dollar campaigns. We have folks who give us $5 a month, people who give us $10 a month, $20 a month. So anyone has the capacity to give at any level. And the way in which we do it allows, regardless of your income, your ability to give, we accept all donations. And so anyone who's interested in doing so can either reach out to Tasha. You can access it on our website. You can reach out to me. We'll be more than willing to set you up on the low dollar monthly contribution, and we definitely accept larger contributions. So we thank you for that. Thank you for that question and any support that can be given.
Thank you. Sabrina's question is, are there any national or regional immigration legal service providers, example, NILC, NIP partnering with MCJ?
I know NILC is the National Immigration Law Center. We've reached out to them and we have connections. They sent us some materials that they literally just created for this response. And those are some of the same links that we'll be sharing with folks after this call from the National Immigration Law Center. Hari, I'm not sure if there are other national immigration legal services programs that you want to mention.
Yeah, so the National Immigration, an attorney at the National Immigration Project has been helping us create the legal intake form for the immigration side of things. And then the American Immigration Council has been helping us with one of the other things that happened right at the beginning of the year was that Shad White released a report saying that undocumented immigrants cost Mississippi money when we know that that's not true. And they actually contribute positively to the economy. And so the American Immigration Council helped us run those numbers to be able to respond and help IAHE respond to those allegations.
Thank you. Stephen's question is, how can community members get involved in supporting immigrant rights and aiding those affected by recent changes in policy?
I just want to speak to that really quickly. I think the most important thing any individual can do is, for instance, I have friends who are impacted by this. If you know someone who is either has voiced that they're scared or wants more information, then you can be the conduit to attach them to us, because everyone they don't know who to trust. And that includes places like the Mississippi Center for Justice. So oftentimes we need that middle person to sort of connect them to us and say, this is a place where you can trust. You can call these people, they will help you, and they will not harm you. And so if you know someone in your community who could use our services, who has questions, who have had any contact with either ICE or fearful, or just have questions about, like, can I go to work without worrying about somebody picking me up? Please make that connection for us, because again, they don't know who to trust. People don't know who to trust anymore. And we want people to know that the Center for Justice is a place that they can call and that we can be trusted. But Hari, you may want to add to that response.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay. I think I have addressed all questions that were in the chat, and I can't see everyone's faces on the screen, but I don't know, Tara, do you see anyone with hands raised? So we'll make a last call for questions and concerns. And I will say this, at any time, MCJ staff is here and available. If questions or concerns do come up, you can surely call our office directly or email us. We will be more than happy to address those questions or concerns as they occur. So if there are not any more questions or concerns, we did put our online giving link in the chat. And before I turn it over to Kimberly, I would like to thank you all again for joining us on today's call. And I would like to also take the opportunity to share with you all our upcoming fund development events. Mississippi on the Potomac is our first one that we will kick off in Washington, D.C. on June the 4th of this year. Our signature reception and awards event, Champions for Justice, is scheduled for October the 23rd in Jackson, Mississippi. And the very next day, we will take our immersive journey through Mississippi on our Great Mississippi Road Trip. So we hope that you all will consider sponsoring and attending all of our events. Now I will yield to Kimberly to close us out. Thank you.
Now, I want to thank you again for joining us. We didn't want to take up too much of your time this morning, but we wanted to let you know that we were aware of what's happening and we're being responsive. I just want to say when well-funded and justice is gaining momentum, stopping it requires a response that is swift, nimble, and ready to roll. Your tax-deductible gift ensures that the Mississippi Center for Justice is equipped to take action today. So for those who are willing to give, we thank you. Thank you again for being here and for standing with us. We will keep you informed and involved as we navigate these challenges together. Have a good weekend.